I wouldn't have a client like that. I'd say I have the final say on what's a good translation.
What about car companies often have their own in-house preferred term for something?
They're hopeless. Their glossaries are hopeless, and I know how to point that out to them and make them embarrassed. So they say, okay, Chris, you better tell us how to translate it. It's developing all these sort of arguments so that when you're with clients, you never sit still and listen to them tell you how language works. Do I tell you how to build a car? It's just, no. No, I know that you deal with companies. It's just, all my clients are in more or less in Melbourne. So they're all local. I don't do a lot of remote work to Japan. It's very rare for me.
Just to comment on that point on the translation field, I had a lot of annual reports and IR materials. It's pretty much standard practice for the end client. You know, I work for an agency who's producing these things, so they use my writing plus, you know, their in-house design, and they'll take it to the end client. It'll be a big Japanese company or something. It's pretty common for that big Japanese company, the end client, the end user, to either define the terms badly, or even worse, you know, that I'll do some financial thing, an insurance thing, and do it all, and I think it's fine. My client will then take it to them, and they'll just not only mess around with the technical terms, but everything else, and ours and theirs and everything, and it comes back next year, and it's like, you know, it's in such a state you don't want to own up to it.
We need to make an important distinction here. If all of that happens after I've been paid, I don't give a shit. But you're often in the situation where you have to have the argument before they paid. I mean, and then it's still my job. It's still my responsibility. But if they want to pay me, and they can do whatever they want.
What if that then goes out with your name on it, though?
Well, that's a good point. And I think once I've said to someone, don't tell anyone who did it. But I've never seen, or maybe I'm not aware of what's happened to my translation. Yeah.
We deal with a lot of the same sort of stuff, and what I say to the client is that, okay, fine, you can do what you want with it, but we're not going to say that we did it. And I find that usually lets them know that.
It's pretty bad. Maybe once or twice I've had a discussion like that, but maybe I do a different sort of work. Yeah.
This idea about convincing clients that they're wrong and how to convince them that you're right, it seems to me like that requires credibility. So how do you work on being credible?
We have a methodology that we've written down on how to check. Okay, well, this might not directly address that, but it's give you a hint. If we have to check, if someone disputes or wants us to check someone else's translation, if there's any sort of issue like that, I always say go for the big three. Find 3 mistakes that everyone will look at and say, oh, this is what happened. Find 3. You have to. Most of them say, well, what's wrong with, it's like, I think we know this or whatever. You've got to find something really embarrassing, and you always can. We're blessed in that way. There's so much crap work out there. Well, I have a collection of areas. It's not bound yet, but we have a mistake catalogue. And we can take people and say, this is how bad your stuff is in Japanese. Here's an equivalent one in English. I mean, you've got to embarrass people. You've really got to destroy that preconception that they know about language, and it takes shock tactics. So I'm always looking out for mistakes and interesting stories that I can turn into stuff, because you can only get away with this when you're with them, when they're committed to paying you. I've analysed all my stats for all the jobs I've ever done. I've looked at all the people I've made more than $20,000 out of, and I look down there. I've spent quality time with them all. I've had dinner with them. I've sat on the Shinkansen with them, and they've had to listen to me raving on like this benches. But I mean, they're the educated clients. The brochure and the seminars doesn't work.
Any more questions? No? Okay, Chris, I think you've taken me to submission. Thank you very much.